Would I spend my own hard-earned money to buy the Samyang Sumatra 2500? That's the question that we're going to answer today. How's it? So before I start, I just want to say a huge thank you to Mark Wallace for allowing me to review this beautiful rifle of his. So we're going to go through the entire rifle. I'm going to tell you what I like. I'm going to tell you what I dislike. And then at the end of the day, we're going to discuss whether I'd actually buy this rifle or not. Now, just some history. About 2 years ago, I walked onto the air rifle range and I saw this monstrosity and I thought, holy shit, that is beautiful. I mean, if you look at the detail on this casting, it is absolutely magnificent. And I set myself up, got ready to start shooting, and the next moment, the shot on this thing went off. And I went, geez, what the hell was that? And the oak took about 6 shots, packed it up, and left. And I never saw one again. But the interesting thing is, it's been lingering in the back of my mind. What is this thing? How does it shoot? Is it something that I would buy personally? So let's just go through the rifle and discuss all the different components. So firstly, this is a 500cc cylinder and it fills to about 210 bars. I think the interesting thing for me was I've got a pretty accurate regulator or filling station on my cylinder. And on my filling station, it showed 190 bar when the manometer on this specific rifle showed that it was over 210 bar. So that was quite an interesting thing for me. But in any case, it fills to 210 bar. Now, out of that 210 bar, you've got 3 different settings, and we'll go into those settings in just a second. But in essence, on the lowest setting, I got about 57 shots. On the medium setting, I got about 37 shots. And on the low setting, I got, on the high setting, I got 30 shots. But we'll go through that in more detail. So what are my initial thoughts about this specific rifle? Well, the first thing is that it looks magnificently beautiful. I mean, it looks more like a shotgun than anything else. And I also love this underlever that you use as a cocking mechanism. So it's got a beautiful stock. I really like that. And like I mentioned, the detail on this cast is absolutely incredible. So from that perspective, it is an incredibly beautiful rifle. So some of the things that I would highly recommend is if you're going to mount a scope on this rifle, it's got a dovetail, but a very, very short little dovetail, is that you mount at least 25 millimeters or 50 millimeters extension rings. I know Hawk sells those extension rings. This is a 30 mil scope, so you can get those 30 mils in both 25 and 50 mils. Otherwise, you sit with a situation like this where you know the rings are too close to the mechanisms itself, and if you torque this, you might just damage the mechanisms within the scope. So that's definitely one of the things that I would change. The other thing that was very interesting for me on this specific rifle, and I don't know if it was just this rifle or if it's a general feature, is there was no non-return valve when I filled this rifle. So as soon as I filled it to 200 bar and I wanted to decompress the air in my filling station, it would just decompress the entire tube. Now, the only way that I could get rid of that or actually keep the air in the tube was to remove that probe under pressure. And if you think the sound from this rifle will piss off the people next to you, I guarantee you the bang that 200 bar pressure makes when you pull that filling probe out is insane. So you know, I eventually had to wear earmuffs because it was just too loud. So, you know, once again, I don't know if that was a feature of this rifle or if that's in general how they work. So if we look at the feeding mechanism, it's got a little 6-shot magazine. This rifle had 2 of those little magazines. And again, for me, this was quite strange as well. So if I look at the magazine, you would take a pellet and fit it from the top. And, you know, the pellet will basically seat within the magazine. But because it doesn't have an indexing spring that sort of keeps the pellets intact, as soon as you move this, or as soon as you just sort of turn it a little, all the pellets would fall out. So if I think about hunting and I think about taking several magazines with me, specifically because I want to go and hunt, I probably have to take, you know, sticking tape or masking tape or whatever to stick it over here so that when I want to use this magazine, I can just pull that off, put it in, and make sure that the pellets are actually still within the magazine. Yeah, so that was quite interesting for me as well. Now, we spoke a second ago around the different settings that we have on this rifle. So if you look at the bottom here, you'll see that I've got the 3 settings. I've got black, I've got green, and I've got red, with red being the top part of that setting. Now, when I look at the scenario that I went through to test this rifle, I think just a couple of things. The first one is, on its lowest setting, I used 18.13 grain JSB pellets to test that setting. And before I forget, if you're going to buy this rifle, you're going to have to buy a cylinder. Not that it helps much with the first 5 shots, but you're going to have to buy a cylinder because it sounds more like a 303 than anything else when it shoots those initial shots. But in any case, on the lowest setting here, which is the black setting, I used 18.13 grain pellets, and I got about 57 shots out of those pellets. I'll actually put the chrony detail up here. Now, obviously, this is not a regulated rifle, so you know, from the first shot, you'll see that it's a downward spiral. And essentially, when I got to sort of below 800 feet per second, that's when I called it quits. You know, anything above that with an 18 grade pellet is still a usable, you know, sort of velocity, but anything below that just doesn't make sense. So when I took the first few shots with the silencer, it still made a hell of a noise, purely because those pellets broke the sound barrier. I mean, it was over 1,100 feet per second with those 18 grain pellets, and that was on the lowest setting. So that's how I started. I then went to the green setting, which is the middle of the range, and there I used 23 grain slugs. And I got, like I mentioned, about 37 shots with those 23 grain slugs. And again, the first few shots broke the sound barrier. So once again, even with that silencer or that moderator, I mean, it's just it's just insane when you shoot this rifle. And then on the red setting, I decided to use my 25 grain redesigned JSB pellets. Once again, those are some of my favorite pellets to use. And again, the first few shots broke the sound barrier, and I got about 30 usable shots out of that range. Now, as I mentioned, I've actually posted all the different chrony details as I went through the process. So because of that steep descent, I never had any high hopes for accuracy with this specific rifle. I mean, if I just look at how quickly I lose velocity as a result of losing air, I had no hopes for that. But in any case, I took the 25 grain redesigned JSB pellets, and I took a couple of shots at 40 meters. And that's really what you're going to see here. So again, I'm going to try and highlight this within the video. But on the left-hand side here, this was the first 1 to 12 shots. And it's about a 3 centimeter grouping that I shot there. And as I mentioned, that was the first 12 shots. Now, 3 centimeters sound like a lot, but if I take this 5 Rand coin and I just put it over there, you'll see it's not much bigger than a 5 Rand coin. So that was my first 12 shots. On the next card here, this was shot number 13 to 24, once again at 40 meters with the 25 grain slugs. And to be very honest, that was really my best grouping. That middle range from 13 to 24 is really where I thought the rifle, you know, shined. And then at the bottom here, I brought the target closer to 25 meters. And this is where I took shot 25 to 36. And once again, I was shooting a very, very nice grouping here. But as the velocity fell, or as the air fell, I could literally see how the pellets started dropping. So that's why you see here, it was a beautiful grouping, and then it literally just starts falling down as the velocity reduced within the rifle. So from an accuracy perspective, I mean, I thought that that was insane. I honestly didn't have high hopes in terms of how this rifle would shoot. But from that perspective, I mean, really, really, really impressed. So what is this rifle then, other than just being a beautiful piece of art? This is a hunting rifle. I mean, this is why you would buy this rifle. This is not a bench race rifle. This is not a rifle that you'll shoot in your backyard. This is not a rifle that you'll plink with. This is a hunting tool. That's really what this rifle, what I believe the purpose of this rifle is. And I think as a hunting tool, shooting 25 grain slugs or even the JSB redesigned pellets, if you just look at the size of a 5 Rand coin, I mean, you'll shoot a hussy or a dussie or a jackal or a vlakvark. I mean, 12 shots in this radius. I think it's absolutely incredible. And like I mentioned, I did not see that coming. So let's answer the question about the Sumatra. What do I think of it? Well, I think it is loud. I think it's intrusive. I think it's barbaric. Would I buy one? Yes, I'll buy one. If you don't have one of these in your collection, you're definitely missing. I mean, the fact of the matter is you'll hardly ever shoot it because it's so obnoxious, but you will look at it frequently. You would take it to the farm to impress people. You'll take it out of the safe to impress people. It is truly a beautiful piece of art. So that is my review on the Sumatra 2500. I'll see you on the next review.